Being a member of a sorority, it has been instilled in me to stand for womanhood and the enrichment of women's lives. Deborah Gray White, a historian of Black women in slavery, writes, "Within the institution of slavery, there were two systems, one for women, the other for men." In her narrative, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, Harriet Jacobs shows us what Black female slavery in the 19th century looks like. During Jacobs' struggle with Black womanhood, she tells us of a time in her life when she was faced with one of the hardest decisions she would ever have to make. Her master and mistress were mistreating her, so she put together a plan to help her move closer to gaining her freedom. She acquired the affections of another in hopes of becoming free. Jacobs defends her immoral actions when she says, "But O ye happy women, whose purity has been sheltered from childhood, who have been free to choose the objects of your affection, whose homes are protected by law, do not judge the poor desolate slave girl too severely." Jacob's sexual choices were a direct reflection of the desperation slavery imposed upon its victims. As a Black female slave, Jacobs not only had to sacrifice her moral standing, but she also had to sacrifice the freedom to choose who to love. During slavery, slaves' relationships were not recognized. Jacobs tells us of a lover she had at a point in her life, but she was kept away from him because of slavery. She got reacquainted with a carpenter she knew when she was young, and eventually he proposed to her, but her master kept her from being able to marry him, the man she truly loved. Jacobs describes her feelings when she says, "I loved him with all the ardor of a young girl's first love, but when I reflected that I was a slave, and that the laws gave no sanction to the marriage of such, my heart sank within me." Jacobs describes womanhood as a singular experience defined by the woman living it. From sexual exploits to selecting who to love, slave women were not granted the same freedom as their white counterparts. Black womanhood was stripped of all personal freedoms to the point that it was no longer womanhood at all. Black womanhood in the 19th century is defined by the robbery of self-worth. I now have a new understanding of Black 19th century womanhood and a newfound appreciation for my own.